Hello, everyone. So this is my project, Memes of the People, by the People, for the People. The Power of Memes in 21st Century Politics. That's a take on what Abraham Lincoln said at the Gettysburg Address, by the way. Um, so my project is about, um, so the main issue that we face in America when it comes to campaigning is it lies in the lack of campaigning tools and strategies for third parties and their respective candidates. For example, Dr. Jo Jorgensen, she was the Libertarian candidate in the 2020 election, and she was on the ballot in all 50 states with Biden and Trump. Um, and she was never allowed on the debate stage with them, even though she was a viable candidate. She was on the ballot in all 50 states. So third-party candidates, they're blatantly oppressed and suppressed by the two-party system. And they often do not have the funding for campaigning that Democrats and Republicans do. And even if they did, it's likely that the two-party system would keep them from being able to have campaign ads and things that the Republicans and Democrats use in every election as campaigning tools. So I researched my work through the use of media criticism, literature review, and scholarly research review. I believe that every person of voting age in the country, whether they're registered or not, because they could always register, needs to see my work. I think the younger members of the American populace that are voting age would believe that memes have a future as well as a present political process, more so than any other age demographic. I don't believe that there would be much of a disparity between racial or sexual demographics. The main opponents would be older members of the American populace who are either unfamiliar with memes or with social media in general. And they may just think of it as a laughable thing that memes have a future as well as a present in the political process. Without a form of widely accessible and inexpensive campaigning strategies, the Republicans and Democrats will maintain total control over the political process in the United States, whether people want them or not. And persuasive political memes undoubtedly have the potential to be that political tool or campaigning strategy that is so needed. They're vastly inexpensive, and if made properly, they're an extremely effective tool of persuasion. So for my project, I researched political memes and how they are persuasive. And through the research I did, I was able to provide a clear understanding of the impact that memes and social media have in the political process. So that brings me to the most helpful research that I found was by Chagas, Freer, Rios, and Magalhaes in 2019 when they analyzed the 2014 presidential election in Brazil. And so they took persuasive memes and they broke them down into 4 categories based on research done by Schiffman in 2013. And so they called these propositional rhetoric and or pragmatic appeal, seducing or threatening rhetoric and or emotional appeal, ethical and moral rhetoric and or ideological appeal, and critical rhetoric and or appeal to the credibility of the source. So this is, so the first one, it markets a candidate's ideas and brings about a discussion of political opinions and hot topics of the current election. And it persuades people by showing that they can relate to the candidate if they share views that are similar to the candidates. And it acts as more, they're similar more so to a campaign poster. The second, it plays upon people's emotions by portraying candidates as a father and mother figure who will save us all and or protect the poor or the innocent. And these few memes that I have here fall under that category by Libertarians want to bring the troops home. This could play upon the emotions of someone who has a family member in the military or serving overseas. Biden Harris, come with us if you want to live, playing on people's like worries and fears of the outcome of the election. The third one uses the mistakes, failures, and corrupt actions of oppositional candidates, as well as political rivalries between parties. And they take the mistakes that they've made in the past, or failures, or corruption, whether it has been proven or not, and they make memes advertising that. And the last one aims to prove the credibility of a specific candidate by utilizing factual statements of support for a candidate, as well as good things that they've done politically from the news or political surveys. My project explains the issue of third parties being unofficially banned from gaining the presidency by being oppressed by the two-party system of American government. I provided examples of how this is fact. Some constraints would be the mindset in America that the individual's vote will not count if they vote third party, and that third parties tend to be lacking in campaigning funds that the Republicans and Democrats have at their disposal. Through my research on the use of political memes, I was able to find that memes can be a viable option for parties who lack funding and are kept from campaigning in traditional ways. I found that persuasive memes can be extremely helpful in the future in campaigning for all parties, no matter their funds. Some constraints to the implementation of political memes as a more powerful campaigning tool are that memes can be made using false information, commonly known as fake news. Other constraints may be social media organizations banning information that they do not agree with, including third-party campaigning funds, or campaigning memes. And through through my research, I've learned that there's seemingly always a communication-based option in addressing social needs. Forms of communication are in every aspect of life, and if you can't find one, then based on my research and education, you aren't looking hard enough. About myself, I learned that new forms of communication are gaining traction every day. And as a future marketer or journalist, I need to remain focused, up to date, and open-minded to all the new methods that are sure to come in the near and far off future. As a follower of Christ, I learned that there are injustices that surround us in the world, and we need to do what we can, even if we feel the odds are stacked against us, to fight against these injustices and remember that God is always with us. Thank you, and that is the end of my project.